I believe a huge part is your preparation. And that's with hockey, that's the biggest thing. I mean, we train all year long, all summer long, every single day on certain aspects and what we really want to capitalize on, and, really focusing under, when you're really exhausted or really tired, you push yourself to that limit so that you can push it a little bit further and a little bit further. And your mind is working right the way you trained it to in that moment where you need to have that killer instinct. And same thing in the Elkwoods. I mean, you can go and hike, 14, 15 miles a day, whatever guys do, and you may get that one chance after an entire week or 10 days or whatever it is, and you just let your mind sleep for a second where you should be on, and you miss your opportunity. So
these are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast.
Let's start with introductions.
Age before beauty, Marsh. Go ahead.
But you're older than I am.
Yeah, but like you've been in the league longer. You're supposed to be a veteran.
All right. So Brad Marchand, Kevan and I started Marchand Milko, just a hunting company, and then now more recently get into outfitting business with moose and caribou and black bear. But live on the East Coast in Boston. Always growing up being a big hunter, had to put it on the sidelines for a little bit while I kind of pursued my career, and now really getting back into it big time the last number of years, and have a huge passion for it. And now it really consumes my everyday. So that's kind of where I stand.
That's awesome.
My name's Kevan Miller. I live in just outside of Park City, Utah. I'm originally from California, but left there a while ago. And Brad and I, we've been teammates for going on 8 years now, and we've had a blast. And say again, what? Huh?
Too long.
Too long. Holy smokes, it's been a long time. But no, we enjoy hunting. We enjoy sharing that passion of ours, and we're looking forward to that's kind of why we started this company, Marchand Milko, is to kind of share our passion. I'm a little bit late to the dance. Marsh's been hunting his whole life, and I've been fishing with my dad and backpacking and doing that whole thing, and did a little bit of hunting. I have some cousins out in Montana that own a lodge, and I did a little bit of hunting at a young age. And obviously with hockey and fall, it makes it tough to do fall hunting. So that was kind of put on the wayside, and I've recently kind of picked that back up, and that passion has been burning ever since. So we've really enjoyed it, and we have a fall this year that we've never had before. So we've taken advantage, and looking forward to chatting about it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice if hockey just stayed, after the first of the year, and you guys could have every fall to hunt from now on?
We've slowly been inputting that to people at the PA, like, hey guys, this January to August thing's great. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah. We'll
take October and November off every year. We don't mind that.
So are we going to get a hockey season in the first of the year? You guys know yet?
Yeah, I think we're going to start. Right now it's looking in between January, February.
Yeah.
We're probably looking towards the earlier part of January, but it's changing day to day, obviously, with what the new rules and everything are. I think they're trying to figure out exactly how it's going to play out, but I think we're kind of predicting, and somewhere in the middle of January is probably what's going to happen, but it's all up in the air right now. That's just kind of us guessing. We really don't know. We're waiting on a word right now.
Gotcha. Now, Kevan, how does a dude from Santa Clarita start playing hockey? Like, shouldn't you have been surfing or working a kale salad latte or something?
Working in an Alberta. No, it's a funny story. I guess when Gretzky moved out to LA, hockey was kind of blowing up. I think I'm a product of that. I had an older brother and a younger brother, and we just moved into a new house, and I was 5, and we had a neighbor down the street who, who saw us playing roller hockey on the driveway, and he's like, "Hey, you want to play some ice hockey?" And my dad was a football player growing up, and wasn't really pushing us in any direction. Just wanted us to do something, and I picked it up when I was like about 5 or 6, and I knew that was what I wanted to do. So I've been doing it ever since. And I left and played travel hockey in California until I was about 15, and then I moved back east. So I've been back east basically ever since.
And Brad, it's probably mandatory for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have a choice. As soon as you kind of come out, you're throwing on skates, stuck on a pond, and we're kind of brought up. You're an outcast if you play any other sport, basketball or football. You're kind of the weird guy. So, we're pretty much born with skates on, and I mean that's really all you can do. I mean, it's snow and ice basically all spring, fall, and winter. So, not a whole lot of time to do anything else, anyways. But it's a fun sport and allows us to have an opportunity to do something fun and at least be outside. So it's enjoyable.
So I'll be the first to admit that I don't know a ton about hockey, but I really enjoy watching it. I don't have any business participating in any aspect of it, but it is a great sport to watch. And there's a lot of similarities, I think, between hockey and hunting. And I think each of you guys possess skills on the ice that translates into skill in the field. And I was thinking about this, and I really want to ask you about it, but especially in the realm of elk hunting, because you got into archery elk a little bit this season, right?
The last few years, I know myself, I started doing it 3 or 4 years ago. I actually got so hooked on it, I bought a place in Colorado for elk and deer hunting, and Millsy has gotten into it the last couple of years and crushed it this year. He had a great elk season. So, we've really been getting into it.
Tell me about your elk season, Kevan.
So, obviously we've had a fall like we've never had before. So I circled some things on the calendar that I wanted to be a part of. Last year, there's a place called West Canyon Ranch out in Logan, Utah, or Paradise, Utah, and I went and shot a buffalo out there. That was kind of like my introduction to bow hunting. Really, it's an animal that I've always really wanted to hunt, and it's something that I kind of hold in a high regard. So it's something I wanted to do, and that was kind of what hooked me. It's an elk ranch, and they have some bison there as well. And I saw some of the elk out there, and I'd always really wanted to get into it, whether it be rifle or archery. And I think my love for archery had kind of really grown after that hunt. We do some turkey, some deer, the whole thing. And it's really, I think I don't know, it's something primal about it for me. And then this year, there's a few things that we had planned. Like I wanted to go back to West Canyon Ranch and harvest an elk. And so I circled that one on the date. And then following that, I went to Colorado. It was our first Marchand and Kevan veteran hunt. So we had sponsored a guy named Anthony Orsini. He's a U.S. Air Force. He's actually not a veteran. He's still active duty. But we brought him out on a over-the-counter elk hunt. And we did that for 7 days. And that was September 7th through the 15th or something like that, or 16th. And we just got absolutely hammered, just as far as like snow wise. And we didn't get hammered. We got dumped on. We got our first camp. We had some guys that had do some scouting for us, and we got 12 inches the first night, and then we picked up move camp, and then 3 days later we got another 12 inches at our other camp. So it was a lot of fun. We got buried, and we did have some opportunity, some elk. We just didn't harvest one. And then from there, I drew the Montana combo tag rifle. I guess it's archery or rifle, but so it's elk and either mule deer or white. And went out to Montana. That was October 30th through September 7th, and I did a horseback pack trip in and hunted from there. And I was in in Ennis, Montana, and I was able to harvest a nice elk there and a nice whitetail. Yeah,
cool.
We had a blast.
Now your start with Bruins was kind of tough. You had some setbacks those first couple of years, didn't you?
Yeah, I've had a number of setbacks.
Yeah.
if we're being honest. So I came out of college and I was not drafted, signed as a free agent on a PTO with the Bruins AHL team, and then I was fortunate a couple weeks later to sign an NHL contract. I spent a few years in the AHL and then was called up after 2 years, and I've been with them ever since. But I've had setbacks, I guess if you want to call them injuries. I've had a number of those, and I guess it's just the product of my style of play, I guess, and it's part of the game. And but we're back at it, coming back this year, and Marshy stuck with me for another year, and we're excited about it.
But that attitude on the ice, that perseverance and ability to work through injuries, work through setbacks of all different kinds, that's exactly what it takes in the Elkwoods. And you get a bad weather event, the elk aren't there, they aren't working with you. Elk will just beat you up. And I think that's the thing that people love about elk hunting, and the thing that they hate about it too, and that causes them to go home and eat their tag afterwards a lot of times, is that it is really hard. But if you do stick with it, you can have some really incredible experiences like what turned out in Ennis. And you didn't get eaten by a grizzly bear, which is nice.
The crazy thing, I'll give you a quick story about Ennis, was like I didn't really know what I was getting into. My cousin had set it up. I really didn't, honestly. Like I've never been around grizzlies before. I have no idea about that stuff. Like I brought my 45, I had it with me, and the guy who took me out, he's just like, "Hey man, you do you know how to use that thing?" I'm like, I can fire it. And then he's like, "Do you have bear spray?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Here, bring this. You're probably better off with this than you are with that." And he's probably right. I can't hit the broadside of a barn with my handgun. But at the same time, we were in Tolman Canyon, which is I don't know if you guys have seen that video where the guy comes down from the mountain and his ears ripped off and he's driving to the hospital and he's talking about it. Like, I just got mauled by a grizzly. He came back an hour later, mauled me again. And then he walked out of there for like 3 miles and got in his car and he's videoing him. And I'm halfway up the mountain with this guy. He's like, "Yeah, you seen that video?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That was right here," pointing at where it was. And so
let's head back
that
now. Let's go back down the mountain.
A little bit. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, so we're turning around now." But
let's go whitetail hunting.
Yeah, seriously. And then the best part about it, the funny part about it is the first day we packed in. It's about a 2.5 hour pack in on a horse, and I probably packed 20 pounds of stuff over that I didn't need. I'm just kind of OCD about stuff. And we get in there, it's 2.5 hours in, and he goes, "Grab your gun. We're going to hike up here." I'm like, "All right, great." Got it over my shoulder. He goes, "Hey, just load around in there and make sure we're good to go. We're just going to walk up here a little bit." So I go to pull my bolt back and load around and forgot all my ammo.
What?
I forgot all my ammo. Forgot the magazine and my ammo.
Oh, brutal.
No, so I didn't have my handgun at that point either. Had no bullets. It was just, these are things that like you learn as a 13-year-old, like when your dad brings you out, and like I'm learning these things now. So we had a good laugh.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's tough. That's a real kick in the knocker. Yeah.
It is for sure. But we went back the next day, and I brought my ammo, and we shot a nice elk, and it was all gravy after that. So no complaints.
All's well that ends well. In the same vein, Brad, with elk hunting, I was thinking about your style of play on the ice, and I was thinking about the actual act of calling in a bull elk during archery season. And a lot of what you're doing is just antagonizing that animal and trying to get them into an emotional state where they're willing to make a really bad decision that costs them everything. And that's really what you do to other players on the ice.
Yeah, that's on it.
Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of that's one of the things that drew me to love elk hunting so much. Is when the first time you hear a bugle, you get so fired, and it's like that every time you hear one. And that art, it really is an art. I mean, you see the best elk callers and the guys who can, you just like, they sound like a legit elk, and they know what they're doing. They've practiced so much, and they know how to get them to respond. That's kind of what I've learned how to do on the ice, is how to get people to react and make bad decisions. And elk hunting, that's what you want. You want them to make a bad decision that ultimately you're going to capitalize on. And it's a game, and it's, you're trying to beat them and in their environment. And that's just so incredible. I think when I really first started learning it, the first year I went out there and I to Colorado, and I could have shot one the first morning and I missed a bullet 40 yards or something like that. And I don't think I saw another one the rest of the trip. And I really, like, the more you learn about it, just like with the thermals and the wind and how they move and how they act, it's just, especially on the East Coast, it's not really anything we grew up learning. So the more you learn, and then you get to understand how they are in their home environment, and then to go in there and to be able to call them in and set up and to be able to beat them in that environment. There's nothing like it. I mean, it's part of the whole hunt. And I mean, that's the argument that you have, especially here in Boston, where people aren't always big hunters. And I talk a lot about elk hunting, is, you know, they view it as the hunt is about killing. And that's not what it's about. It's about the rest of it, right? Like, it might take 5 seconds to shoot an animal, but the rest of the week or 2 weeks or the month that you're in the woods, and all the things that led up to it, and the game plan that you put together, and how you get an animal to respond to you, that's what it's all about, and whether you get one or not. And I think that's what people fail to understand. But that's what I love about it. And you know, it's just about knowing that I forced an animal, or I got an animal to make a bad decision, and I was able to capitalize that. And that's the same as on the ice. So.
Yeah. Well, another similarity is that with hunting, it's a grind throughout a season, right? Or even if you're doing a hunt that's only 5 days long, if you're sure enough hunting for 5 days straight, you are smoked by the end of that. If you're going 10 days, even more so. I know very few people who can actually go 10 days. But you kind of have this slow burn and steady grind, but then there are moments that count very much, and it's a game of absolute seconds and inches. And I feel like that's another similarity to what you guys are doing. You know, you've got a very long season, you're playing 1,000 games a year, and, you know, you're running these 2-minute shifts that are, you know, very, very intense. But within that, there's just a second or two that really, really matters, right?
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, we talked about it a little bit there before, that I believe a huge part is your preparation. And that's, with hockey, that's the biggest thing. I mean, we train all year long, all summer long, every single day on certain aspects and what we really want to capitalize on. And, you know, really focusing under, you know, when you're really exhausted or really tired, you push yourself to that limit so that you can push it a little bit further and a little bit further. And your mind is working right the way you trained it to in that moment where you need to have that killer instinct. And same thing in the elk woods. I mean, you can go and hike, you know, 14, 15 miles a day, whatever guys do, and you may get that one chance after an entire week or 10 days or whatever it is, and you just let your mind sleep for a second where you should be on, and you know, you miss your opportunity. So the entire summer, whatever, the entire year you've trained was really for nothing because you didn't capitalize on that one chance that you got. So I believe a lot of it is just your focus and preparation, and the more you do, the harder you work, the better chance you give yourself to succeed. And you know, at the end of those trips where maybe you're not seeing as many animals you'd like, or the game plan you put together wasn't quite panning out, and then it all comes together in a matter of seconds. And, you know, if you're not prepared and you didn't train the way you should have, then, you know, you may not capitalize on that opportunity. So that's what I love about it. It's not just the hunt, it's the preparation that leads up to it. I mean, when I'm on the road, we spend hours in our room and lots of time traveling, and a lot of those time I'm, you know, studying and looking for different game plans for in the fall. So
asking where my Onyx spots are.
Yeah.
I live in constant fear of my Onyx getting hacked, like bank account, whatever.
Oh.
I can deal with that, but not my Onyx. That's invaluable.
Exactly. Like, lock that thing away.
Yeah, exactly. I got a phone just for my Onyx.
Nice. Yeah, I put some bad Onyx points with really good descriptions in a few locations, so that if the dudes back there in Bozeman ever break into my stuff, then, you know, there's a lot of bad information on there too.
No, to stay away from those when I hack your phone.
Yeah. Decoy spots. Smart.
Yeah.
Do you guys consider hockey a violent sport?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
You consider hunting a violent sport?
Yeah.
little bit. What are some
A
of
little
those
bit.
similarities or differences?
So I guess it just determines the definition of violent. And there's a few different, like definitions that you would say for violent. Violent, I think violent in the, like, for hockey is not like a, like, person to person violence. I think it's just more of the nature of it. Yes, there is person to person violence. People fight, it is part of the game, but I think it's more like the speed and direction of play is violent. It's at a high, like football. It's the same thing. It's a violent sport. Like the velocity and the speed of the players and the puck and all of that. How guys hit, how guys are moving, the sudden movements left to right, forward, backward. Like they're all violent moves. They're not slow. They're not methodical. I think it's a violent sport in that regard. And my only comparison to that via hunting is that it's a different kind of violence. And I don't think it's violence in your nature that, like, your traditional violent definition. I think it's more of, because it's not like hockey and sport like in that, like where it's not high velocity, it's not speed, it's slowed down, right? Your senses are in a different like tune, your body's in a different tune, but it needs to go to that violent mindset quickly when the time comes. And I think that's especially with archery, like, so that's what's cool. I think that's what's like kind of draws me to it, is that you're almost sleeping, you're walking around, you're kind of creeping through the woods, you're being quiet, and then all of a sudden you hear that bugle or that snap of that twig, and like you're like, your senses click on, your violent senses click on, and it's like you get very, like, kind of tuned in, your focus narrows. So that's kind of how I see it.
I like that description. Millsy's more of a violent person than I am, so you can explain it like that, then I just gotta agree with him.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing, and it's something that I've thought about a lot within hunting, for sure, because we are out there to kill something, and I think you have to acknowledge that. And like you said, killing something isn't the hunt, right? That's like saying that an entire sentence is about the period. It's not, but it is a portion of it. And
Yeah.
A lot of people have gone away from acknowledging that, and they want to talk about other aspects so much that they lose completely that realization that, hey, at the end of this, I am trying to take another animal's life, and then afterwards I'm going to eat its body. And that's kind of violent. And if you're on the ice, skating it however fast you go and run into somebody else that's going in the opposite direction, that's kind of violent. And then, what happens afterwards when you drop your gloves is kind of violent too. So yeah. I think that there has to be an acknowledgement of that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, there has to be a recognition of it, and I think that, I guess it's the nature of our culture lately, is that you've gotten away from, like, showing, and that's what, like Brad and I, like, we'd like to show our mistakes or our, like, of the reality of it, like, and because it's not just like this glamorized, like, hey, it happens this way every single time and the animal dies 10 feet from where you drop it. And like the reality is, like, like for instance, my first deer I shot was a little bit back, and I kind of gut shot. It was a doe, and I saw her, like, go 100 yards and look like she died. I walk up on her, and 10 minutes later, she's still alive, like blatantly still alive, 10 feet from me. And so I had to put another arrow in her, and, like, I walk up to her as she's dying, and I'm, like, kind of holding her head a little bit, and I'm like, that is violent, and it's the reality of it. And I think people have kind of gotten away from showing or portraying that, and I mean, maybe because it's a cultural base, but, like, there is, you don't want to glorify it, but there is, like, a beauty to it, right? Like the hunt and the preparation put in and the whole thing, and the appreciation that the hunter has for after you harvest the animal, like, that's all encompassed into one thing. So, like, for me, is to say that it's not violent is you're losing the aspect of what's going on.
Yeah, and there is a great deal of compassion and respect in that situation that you just described. And if people haven't experienced it, it can be hard for them to know. And it's hard for us to explain as hunters. And the move in recent times is just to go away from even talking about it. But I think, if we're going to talk about it, we need to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I think that is part of the issue right now is everything becomes political, and everyone through social media everyone can voice their opinion and tell you how bad of a person you are. And a lot of people aren't used to taking heat like that and can't take heat like that and are comfortable in those situations. So, yeah, I don't mind it. Bring it on. But, it's a lot harder, or it's a lot easier to just stay away from it and, try to not deal with that aspect of the hunting world. And unfortunately, it is something that we do need to talk about, because if you're just sitting here saying that it is just about being out in the woods and you're not there to kill anything, you're not going to, that's a lie. That's why you're out there. That is what you're doing. You're trying to harvest an animal, and and not everybody's a meat hunter. Some guys want to shoot trophies, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that you're still gonna eat and take the meat that you get with the hunt, whether you want a big rack with it or not. You can't judge someone for that. They're allowed to do whatever's going to make them happy in the woods. I mean, they could spend an entire season every day in the woods and get shoot one animal, but that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. So there's a lot of aspects that are politically incorrect nowadays that unfortunately it takes a lot of the joy out of it. But it is, I do believe it's good to be honest, like Kevin said, be open with the way it is, and people don't like it. You don't have to watch, you don't have to listen, and but it's part of who we are and part of how mankind's always been. So it's a lot better than watching your food come out of these farms where they're raised in a barn. So that's just the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about pressure there from non-hunters, and then even from within the hunting community, there's pressure in all kinds of directions. But Brad, you kind of made a fairly high pressure penalty shot one time. You want to kind of describe what the situation was with that, and kind of how you overcame that pressure?
Was that in Philly where I missed the puck?
Which one are we talking about here?
I think it was in a playoff game, right?
Yeah, no, I've we've all had our good and bad moments. I've had a few bad ones and a couple of good ones, and I think when you talk about the high pressure moments, those are the moments that I like to be part of, and I like to play in when the emotions are high, when the stakes are higher. Those are the times that I like to that I want to be part of, and that I feel the best in. And I don't know, I just feel like that's when you talk about sports or hockey and hunting, there's a lot of similarities, and that's definitely one of them. I mean, when you're in the woods and you have an animal coming in, especially bow hunting, and that's why I love bow hunting. I try to only bow hunt. I mean, I do gun hunt every now and again, but I really love bow hunting because everything is so up close and personal, and the mistakes that you make, like there's so many things that you have to do right to be successful, and they're high pressure situations. I mean, to be able to read where you need to be for an animal to come in, how he has to turn, if he is standing in a certain position, how you have to shoot, when you draw back, where his head has to be. There's so many different things. And, and when you don't really quite understand how difficult it is until you start bow hunting. You've been through these situations and you make a bunch of mistakes. I mean, when I first started getting into deer hunting, I made a bunch of dumb mistakes where I shot 3 arrows at the same deer. I had a single pin sight, and I forgot to move it. I was practicing at 60, and this deer came in at 20. I shot 3 arrows over its back, and finally I was like, I got to quit here. Like, what's going on? And then I looked down, and it's at the 60 pin. So, little things like that your emotions are so high when you're in these situations. And then when you see something come in and your body starts shaking, you can't control yourself, and you're trying to draw back and keep that pin steady, and your bow's going all over the place. I mean, things like that. And then but then once you realize, you get in these moments and you practice and you've been through it and you start to be calm in these situations. And you're able to, continually be successful, then, like those are the situations you feel really good about. And now I kind of feel like I'm at that point. I love being in, quick situations where, things are happening quick and see how I respond. And I don't always respond right, but I feel like I'm getting better and I'm having a lot of fun. That's for damn sure.
I think that, like, as you talk about that, Marsh, I think it's cool to make the connection between hockey and hunting, where you talk about the preparation, right? Where I think we take a lot of pride in our preparation for hockey. It's basically a 24/7 job all year round, but with hunting, it's very similar. And I think that preparation drives how you perform, obviously, in the woods. But I think what's cool is that I like to think that we maybe have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to hunting because of those pressure situations. Because Marsh, you're constantly in that position. Sometimes I'm in that position where you're under a great deal of pressure come playoff time, penalty shot, 2-on-1, power play, things like that, where you're constantly in those high pressure situations, and it does translate. It definitely translates. So
for sure it does.
And so I've seen it. It's a different thing. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but when you do get comfortable in that position, I think maybe I like to think we maybe have a little bit of an advantage going into that, where you're able to adjust to that quicker and find your pin, if you want to say, quicker than you would normally. So I think and that's what's really drawn me, like Marcia talked about, to bow hunting, is that that. I mean, we were bear hunting up in Maine this past spring, and my heart has never beated like it's beaten when a bear came in to 15 yards from me. And I think normally I would have been, if I hadn't been used to having that sudden spike of adrenaline, I even had trouble getting my arrow back. But without that preparation in advance, I don't think there was any chance I would have been able to draw my bow back and harvest that animal.
Yeah, it is exciting, and I think for some people that can kind of go away as they age. For me, it has not shown any indication that it's going away. So I was hunting in Nebraska last week with Jordan Budd. She's on the SIG hunting team, fellow guide, outfitter, and we were hunting together. This buck came out 170 yards, good, easy shot. I was set up on a tripod, made a good shot and killed it. And when we were walking over there, she kind of giggled a little bit and she goes, "You were breathing really hard. You were excited." It's yeah, every time I'm excited. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never goes away.
For sure. I certainly hope not, because that is a thrill. And, now you guys are getting into the outfitting side of things, and that thrill changes. And I've been guiding for 20 years, and the thrill of calling in a bull for somebody else or helping them out on a bear or a buck or a turkey or a ground squirrel, whatever. It's exciting when you can share that with them and kind of experience that excitement through them. So tell me about Marsh and Milko and the outfitting business and woodland caribou. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I went over for a caribou hunt there last year. My family's hunted Newfoundland for a long time. And I went over and did a caribou and a moose hunt with my family, my dad and my brother. And we had an awesome trip. And so we started just talking about getting an operation over there. And Millsy and I started talking about it. And an opportunity came up that we were kind of going back and forth on, and eventually struck a deal. So I was fortunate enough to go over this year. Millsy could, because he's an American, and couldn't get over the border, but I was able to weasel my way back into Canada. So I went over with my dad, my brother, my grandfather, and I mean, it was unbelievable. The caribou hunting was insane. Fortunately, up there, the rules are you can harvest as many animals as you have tags for, and the tags are plentiful this year. So we went over for a few tags in our pocket. And we're mostly focused on caribou hunting because the tags there are really sought after. There's not many available, and they sell out really quick. So we were kind of focusing on caribou, but it was a bit of a different trip because it was the first time we've been in that area, and we're trying to learn it for ourselves and for the business side of it, where we need to see as much terrain as we possibly can. We need to see the different camps that we have, and basically trying to see how we're going to run it for the next couple of years, whether we're going to do spring bear hunts, if we can do spot stock bear hunts, if we can only do baited, or, where the best moose and best caribou are, because they're in different areas, especially when we were over there in mid to late October. So we're trying to see as much terrain as we can and still get a good hunt in. But the caribou hunting was incredible, and it's tough because you see beautiful caribou, and when you don't see them very often, they look really big, and it's hard to hold off on some of the ones that you see. And we're kind of driving by some, and we're like, why are we not? My grandfather, he kind of yelled at us, like, why aren't you guys shooting that thing? It's right there. And we're like, all right, yeah, but we're day 2. We got a long week ahead of us, and we can always come back and stuff. So we ended up harvesting some really, really nice caribou. And my dad and my brother shot some nice moose and caribou in Newfoundland before, and I shot a small one with a bow a number of years back. So I really want to get a nice moose. So we focused on that one day and ended up shooting a really nice moose as well. But it's an incredible spot. We're on a beautiful lake. It goes for miles and miles, and the country back there, you will never see another hunter. And it's like a true backcountry wilderness hunt. And when you see these moose, like elk are big, but moose are just a different ball game, and they're just so big. And then you add the caribou hunt in there, and like there's bears everywhere too. So it's just, there's so many animals up there, and it really was an awesome hunt. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and I think we have 24 moose tags and 4 caribou tags and a bunch of bear tags as well. So set allotments every year. So we plan on doing a bunch of different stuff. Millsy mentioned before that we're going to do the veteran hunt each year. So we're going to start doing that out of our lodge, and going up there to hunt ourselves and everything. So we have lots of plans for the future and kind of getting it going. But it was a successful year this year, especially with how quick it came together. We shot some nice moose out of the lodge and some beautiful. I think we must have shot a record caribou out of it. It is gigantic. We didn't have it measured yet, but it is. It looks like a 350 bull. It's gigantic. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys develop that and seeing the adventures and chaos stories that come out of that. If you get dudes that show up there without ammunition or whatever.
Sure, we'll have a couple of those horror stories.
You live, you learn.
Yeah.
It'll be a different kind of funny when it's you and you're like, all right, go ahead and shoot him. And he's like,
yeah, and he doesn't have the ammo. I know.
It didn't happen to me on my moose, but when I shot my moose, I was trying to, you can have both weapons with you when you're hunting up there. So I had my gun and I wanted to shoot it with my bow. And we were getting in close and we kind of knew where it was bedded. And we walked through a puddle, and I was so stupid because I knew we were close, but walked through the puddle and looked up, and the cow stared right at me at like 60 yards. So sure enough, the bull jumps up behind it straight on. So I was like, I'm not missing this. It's a nice bull. So I dropped my bow and I grabbed my rifle and I just start shooting at it, and I run out of ammo. And the guy's like, reload. I'm like, I can't. I left it back at the bike. So I had to haul it back to the bike, and I didn't know if I had hit it at this point. Like, fortunately, we had a guy videoing it and reviewed the footage. Found out I did get it in the last shot, but I was a little nervous. So I kind of looked at the guide, and he was like, "I don't think it's looking too good. Like, you better get back there and get some more ammo." But so not quite the same thing. I still got to get a couple shots off, but I didn't have anything to back it up.
The things you learn.
That's right.
That's awesome. We all do that stuff, right? And it is just part of the chaos of learning, and it is a lot of fun at the end of things. So
I was worried because I was flying out the next day. So I had it in my bino pack. I had them in my bino pack, and I was gonna have my bino pack on the airplane, like in my carry-on bag. So I took them out so that I wouldn't forget them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took them out through my backpack, it was stupid.
Excuses. Excuses.
Yeah, and I just had surgery too, so I'm trying to run across. Barely move. It was brutal.
It's funny,
right.
like these are, like I said, these are like usually the things that I don't know. Like Marshy's been hunting a long time since he was a kid, and all these things, and like I'm making these mistakes that I normally would have made when I was like 10, 11 at like 32, and so people start to look at you like, dude, like what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
These little things that like, you know, you normally like forgetting your release or something. Like it's just, you know, you're learning. I'm learning.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I did that a couple of years ago. I took my little guy out for a deer hunt. Sure enough, we get in the stand. I don't have my release on. I didn't think we were going to see anything. Sure enough, 5 deer come out. I don't have a release on. We got our brothers take some pictures.
Yeah.
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 I think I need to make you guys like a checklist or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think, yeah.
Probably.
But I'll tell you, it happened to me a while back. I was home from college, and I think it was the day after Christmas or something, and my neighbor called, and she was in a panic, and she said, there's a mountain lion stalking my husband off the county road. I was like, I'll be there in 3 minutes. And I grabbed this Marlin 4570 that I had, and I hadn't shot the thing very much. I'd only had it for a few months, and I went flying down this road. It's all icy, and I'm going, you know, just bobsledding down the road. And I see this guy, and he's got these 2 Vizsla bird dogs that he walked every day, and he's holding on to them with one hand, and he's pointing down off the side of the road with his other hand. He looked really casual, and I thought he was just pointing at a track or something. So I walk over there all slow, rifle dangling from my arm, and this freaking lion's right there. It's 3 yards away, and its shoulder up and down and tail swishing back and forth. And he's just been pinned down there for the last 20 minutes for his wife to get back to the house, call for me to get there. And he was afraid that if he moved, that this thing was going to jump on him. And I cocked the hammer back on that rifle and went click and dropped the hammer on the safety, because it has a hammer and a safety.
Yeah.
And this guy goes, oh, fuck. And, you know, I was definitely thinking the same thing. And I cocked the hammer, took the safety off, you know, killed the lion, you know, killed it a couple more times. And, yeah, went home and changed my pants probably. But, yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
easy to make a mistake and fun to look back on most of the time. But
Yeah.
certainly, if you're going to go into grizzly country, I think, you know, bear spray is a good thing to have. But, you know, you probably got to have a pistol, and then if you're going to carry a rifle, I always tell people to bring bullets for it.
Yeah. I'm learning. We're gonna go back next year for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna redeem myself.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Kevin, what are you excited about for this Newfoundland deal? Just excited to be able to go?
Yeah, that's first part. You know, I haven't been there yet. Partial owner in it, and I haven't seen it, but no. So Marshy had you know, nothing but awesome things to say about it when he went up there. The animals, the experience, the whole thing is going to be awesome. I've never harvested a moose or caribou, and I'm really looking forward to getting up there and spend some time. The other thing that I'm really looking forward to, like I said, we did the veteran hunt this year out of Colorado, but it's something that we're hoping to bring up to our lodge up there in Newfoundland, and you know, have some good people, some good conversation, and you know, harvest some cool animals, and it'll be really cool, a cool experience to be a part of. We're definitely looking forward to sharing with people.
Yeah, that'll be neat. Are you gonna try and get some Canadian veterans up there as well?
Yeah, I think I don't know if we'll probably start off with 1 a year, Marsh.
Yeah.
I think that's what we had talked about, but we'll see kind of how that goes over the next couple of years. And you know, I have a number of candidates already, some guys that I've been fortunate to get to know that definitely would be good candidates to do it. And obviously the Canadian Special Forces and Army guys up there that work just alongside the Americans as well, that just deserve as much of a chance as the Americans do. So yeah, any veteran or person that served to get up there and spend some time with us would be great. Obviously, Marshy's a Canadian, so it's home with him as well. So we'll kind of see how that goes, and hopefully be able to share some cool experience with a lot of people.
Yeah, we want to walk before we run. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves before, you know, we want to make sure that we do it right, and you know, when we get up there, and you know, everything kind of runs smooth. So, you know, we'll start smaller and then try to go from there.
So if people are interested in learning more about that, if they want to book a woodland caribou hunt or moose hunt or bear hunt, like where do they go? How do they find out about it?
So we have a website, marchandmilco.outfitters.com. So you can go on there. We're also on Instagram, March Milko Outfitters. And that has, all the information that that they need. They can also reach us by email, marchandmilko@gmail.com, or give us a shout at 267-541-7878. Any of those.
Personal number right there, by the way.
Yeah, that's my cell number.
Anytime he's available.
Yeah, anytime of the night, give me a shout. So all of our information, everything's on all those platforms, and like I said, that is my direct number, and we'll get you any information that's necessary. But it is an awesome hunt. The caribou hunt is I fell in love with caribou hunting there last year when I did it, and they're phenomenal animals. I mean, I didn't know a whole lot about them before I started hunting them, and it's an awesome hunt. And the moose, I mean, it's incredible when you see them how big they are. So it's a fun hunt, and like I said, we'll obviously do everything we can to make it an enjoyable trip and make it a successful one. But it's fun one.
Are you going to accept Flyers fans as clients?
Yeah, we don't mind the Flyers fans as much. If you're a Toronto fan, we might have an issue.
At least he's honest. He's honest. If you call, just don't say you're from Toronto. Say you're from a different province or something.
Yeah,
I'm flying in from Alberta. I'll be there next week. You're good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. And I'm really hoping to be able to get up there either this year or next year. Those woodland caribou are so pretty. They're such cool animals, and the terrain that you're hunting them in. That's a really neat hunt. And a lot of caribou hunts are really inaccessible. And you can get weathered out if you're going to Alaska. You can be covered up in bugs so bad that you just want to shoot yourself with your own bow. But from what I've seen of what you guys have up there, it looks pretty awesome. And the fact that you can, potentially mix in moose and bear with that, like that's a hell of an opportunity.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's, I think the one thing that, we won't claim to have the biggest moose in the world. We don't have the Yukon or the Alaskan moose. I mean, they're not as big, that's where the price differential is as well. I mean, it's a much more affordable hunt. We sell ours at $6,500, and I think the Yukon hunts are $2,500 or $25,000. So, but I mean, we still have 50-inch moose and 55-inch moose, and wow. So there's some big moose up there. And I think the one I shot was 40 inches or something like that. But beautiful rack, and the caribou. Our success rates are 100% on caribou, and they were up around that for moose this year. I think we had one guy that didn't shoot a moose. He chose not to. He had a rifle and could have shot a moose at 20 yards. So it's a great opportunity hunt, especially you talk about the caribou and the bear and the moose combo. That's the cool thing about it is depending on what you want, there's different areas that have all three or better for one or better for another. And that's the cool thing about the terrain up there is it's you can go anywhere, and there's so many different areas that are great for each animal. So you talk about the terrain, it can be difficult to hunt in. It's boggy, and then there's the huge hills and the thick trees that they have there. There's different kinds of terrain in the same country, and it's just such a unique hunt. It is like a little bit of a mini Alaska, on a smaller extent, but then we have good fishing as well early in the year and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good opportunity, lots of partridge. So if you're into that kind of thing.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about, and I neglected to bring this up earlier, but you do some bow hunting in like downtown Boston, more or less, right?
Yeah.
Behind the garden.
Yeah, we live in a condo building. There's turkeys like out back, and I was like, I might be able to sneak an arrow in one of them. But no, yeah, that's the good thing about bow hunting too, is around here. And you can get in some bigger woods if you drive a couple hours away, but a lot of it's suburban hunting, and you're hunting small parcels of land, and you get into these town programs where they only allow X amount of hunters in, and they're only 20 minutes outside of Boston, 25 minutes outside of Boston, and so I could sneak out there before practice the odd day or after practice, and tell them, hey, I need you after practice. I shot one this morning. So, we find our way to get it in. It's not the same. Millsy and I just got back from Illinois, actually went on deer hunt out there. And it was so cool being out there because you don't hear any cars or anything when you're in the woods. And here, that's all you can hear, just cars whipping by constantly. So it's different hunting, but you're still able to get in the woods and see some animals and stuff like that, which is, ultimately what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's neat, and people can get a little bit spun out about Western hunting and think that like that's the be all and end all. But if you want to do it, you can probably hunt where you are.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure. So I have a camera out right now. I had 3 pictures today. I had a big 8-point, a horse, and a family with a dog on the same camera.
Nice.
So it's different, but you're right. Wherever you are, there's ways that you can hunt. You just have to find how to do it, and sometimes it's a process, and it can be a pain, but once you do get it dialed in, it's obviously worth it.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot, and look forward to watching all this stuff develop. And for those folks listening, you really need to give these boys a look if caribou or moose or black bear's on your list, because they got a pretty cool thing going on up there.
We appreciate it. We look forward to getting you, Pat, and Tom up there soon.
Should be fun.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. This episode was edited by Emily Brannigan, with original music written and performed by Justin Hay. Artwork for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Christofferson. If you enjoyed the show, I encourage you to share it with a friend and subscribe. You can find photos and more content on Instagram at Six Ranch Podcast. I'll catch you next week.